Hello and welcome to episode 20. We're here already. I'm Sticky Mechanico and I'm joined as per usual by Shpeshal Ed and Kaironaut, and you're listening to the XboxEra podcast. How are we doing, guys?
Doing all right.
Doing all right.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Bit of a
Going stir crazy.
Bit of a week it's been, right?
A bit of
a week.
We'd love to say that this quarantine is a bit strange, but I mean, like we've said before, we're used to this lifestyle, or at least I am.
Basement dwelling. We're hitting all the stereotypes right now. Like,
I will say though, working from home is not as cool as I thought it would be. I thought I'd really enjoy being able to work from home, but you know what? I kind of miss the routine of going into the office, having my morning coffee, seeing my mates down there that own the cafe, having my gym break where I go to the gym, then leave work and don't think about it and come home. Like, I think I actually miss that routine strangely.
Yep. I'm not surprised. I work from home usually two or 3 days a week. This isn't abnormal for me, but it does require a lot of self-discipline. And I think the hardest thing now is that the kids, particularly for me, they're young. Dad's home all the time, and they want to come in here. You can see. Apologies as well for those watching on YouTube. I was in the middle of a house move. Everything's on pause, so we're kind of like, So there's a lot of mess back here, but it's just. And I've heard that. I've been on a lot of company calls and conference calls, and there are kids screaming in the background, and you can see people hurriedly muting, and people are so apologetic, and it's like, look, we're all in the same boat. No one cares.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry about it.
They're draining it hard, my too, but yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do? It is.
Well, yeah, I guess you guys are lucky because I don't have a job till the summer, and that's going to be going away because I work in events. So there's no events, so there's no job. But I also hated my job, so I don't care.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Every cloud, I guess.
Every cloud.
I think that's the scary part of all this. I mean, we've seen the world pivoting to try and combat this, and I think that, there's good and bad things. One of the good things is I think we're seeing a lot more people realizing that the convenience and the availability of everything in our way of life isn't the be all and end all. And I've seen, the plus side is I get to walk in and see my kids whenever I want. Traditionally as the main breadwinner of this household, it's like, I'll see my kids at bedtime and then at the weekend. And now it's like we've made a really pointed thing, and I've said to a lot of my colleagues, like, I stop at 5:30, and the reason I stop at 5:30 is we're now having dinner together as a family every day, instead of give the kids dinner and me and the wife will eat at like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And that is wonderful because I get to really, really spend more time with my kids, a lot more cuddles and fun things, and lots of being silly. And plus, my little boy is really getting the hang of video games now. We are hammering down on getting good at controlling stuff, and he's deep in the world of Roblox and other things at the moment.
Yeah. The daughter is with Roblox and Minecraft, but the son is still on the Switch. Still loving Mario Odyssey, and
why not?
Just went and bought him a whole bunch of games today, like from the grandparents and stuff for Easter. So we've got to hold on to them till next week. Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart, Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. It's funny, when I went to the store just now and got Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, they were like, this game, we've had really high demand for this game lately. I'm like, yeah, well, the Olympics aren't on, so people are just buying the game and they'll just reproduce the Olympics themselves.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, everything's getting cancelled, pushed back.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I will say there's still a lot of effing jerks that are breaking those rules, man. It's freaking me out.
There was actually a story that I read earlier today of some idiots in, I think, Georgia, who come in a small town that had over I think 1,000 or 2,000 cases of confirmed coronavirus, right? And the mayor ordered a 30-day stay-at-home order, and he was going to enforce it with 150 extra policemen. But it's just at this point, it's normal. Every town enforcing something like that is going to be doing something, right? But a bunch of the people who live in that town said, no, we're not doing that. And they complained loud enough, like Karens at a retail store. Oh, and the mayor said, okay, I guess I have to rescind the stay-at-home order.
Well,
come on.
People are stupid. And that's what's scary, and I think that's what we're seeing now, is that there is actually fake news out there. Have you guys heard of the 5G is responsible for the virus? It's nonsense. And I'm like...
5G?
I'm like, what? What?
Oh, you mean 5G? You mean 5G wavelength for cell phone?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Seriously, it's out there.
Oh my god!
And it was actually gaining traction.
How stupid are people? Do we have a measurement on a scale? Like how stupid a person is?
I've said it for years, boys. A person is smart. People are stupid. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you now. If you want an idea of where all this is heading, go and watch the movie called The Mist. Brilliant movie. Mate.
Fantastic film. Frank Darabont.
Brilliant movie.
Black and white version is the best.
I didn't even know there was a black and white version.
The black and white version makes up for the arguably lower budget CGI, because some of it really is a bit poor. But it's an absolute... I'm a huge movie person. So I'm the kind of guy that you want in a trivia movie questionnaire thingy.
I'm the same, actually.
and
I've been dubbed the human IMDb.
Yeah, very very similar. So again, if you haven't seen it yet, I just watched The Invisible Man, the one with Elizabeth Moss. Really film. Well done, and coincidentally was written and directed by the same guy who did Upgrade. And if you haven't seen Upgrade, also
Upgrade's brilliant.
Really good
Upgrade was filmed in Melbourne.
Yeah,
The Invisible Man was filmed in Sydney.
Amazing.
But
to get back on the topic, so it just seems like people are either freaking out or thinking this is nothing, and neither situation is going to help anyone. So honestly, I think to anyone listening to this, anyone watching this, just relax, follow the guidelines, follow the guidelines of the World Health Organization, and if you're in the U.S., the CDC. Or in any other country, your local health administration, all their guidelines. Just follow them as best you can. Stay home.
Play games.
Stay the F home.
Stay home.
Play games.
And just relax. As long as you do those things, there's nothing to panic about.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So, speaking of staying home and playing games,
what have we been playing?
Yeah, so from my perspective, a couple of things. Some of them are on topic. I have really been enjoying Warzone.
Yes, it's good.
Call of Duty Warzone. Didn't expect to. Was a big PUBG fan, but the jank of PUBG. PUBG. The jank of PUBG really got on my nerves.
We're never going to get through to him, huh?
But Warzone, really great fun to play, and all the little tweaks.
Did you try Plunder?
I've tried Plunder now, and really enjoyed that as well. When things get really crazy when you're in that top three and constant respawning on teams, the attack choppers coming in. It is a little bit like baby's first battle royale. It's super easy to play. To the point where even I am.
Oh, well, okay. But that's debatable, because, if you're chasing after the highest levels of cash you can possibly get, you should be. But that game basically becomes, have you ever played The Division?
Yeah. Yeah, I played the first one. I didn't bother with the second.
Do you remember the dark zones?
Yep.
That is essentially Plunder.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. And you have to play by Dark Zone rules once you start getting above $500,000 in game. You just have to hoard your stuff. You're likely never going to find a place that's safe enough to deposit anything. Just hoard it.
Just hoard it.
And don't die.
Don't die. That's exactly how we found it. But no, it's been really good fun. And the other game that has had a massive resurgence, and it's kind of on topic this week due to the announcement a couple of days back, is back on the seas in the Sea of Thieves. Had probably one of the best sessions. So we were kind of like, my crew and I were kind of like, let's get some new Tall Tales done. We haven't played in a while, and we suddenly found that the world seems a little bit more full of life again. Because it seemed a little bit dead for a while out there in terms of not the PvP stuff, but the actual shared world adventure. And we literally just had one of the best experiences yesterday evening that I've had in ages on that game. And for Sea of Thieves fans that listen to this, and they know that I stand for that game in a big way, we effectively, we did the Skull Fort. No, we're quite bullish. We're pretty good at it, so we take on any ship we see, and we always try and rob all their loot. We took on a briggy and a galleon. We approached a fort. A galleon was doing the fort. A briggy was coming in, and we just kind of shouted across to them like, "Hey, you want to alliance up?" And they didn't fire on us, so we took that as, yep, they're working with us. Went in. We absolutely decimated the galleon. So the masts were coming down, the ship was on fire, we killed all the crew, we sunk them, and they were doing the fort, but we noticed that the briggy was kind of circling and not really taking any shots. As soon as that galleon went down, they opened fire on us, but we were expecting it, so we already had cursed cannonballs at the ready to down their anchor, drop their rigging, all of that stuff. Completely destroyed them as well. Both ships were stuffed to the brim with loot, so we took it all on, fought the fort, but then that fort, for some reason, everyone was fighting over it. So in the space of time it took us to do the fort, we were attacked repeatedly by the same galleon trying to get revenge, a briggy about 6 times, and a sloop. So we were well stocked. We saw off in the double digits of player ships. Like, some of them were just the same ship coming back trying to stop us. Eventually got it, got the key. Then they stole the key off our guy on the island. They opened the fort. They got this massive mega keg, blew up our galleon. Our brigantine, rather. We sank, and at this point we've lost all the loot we had, but we had fought them off like 18 times or something bananas. Like, we were really, really on it. So we were like, but we'd sunk them at the same time. So just as they went down, they mega kegged us. We went down. We were like, right, it's a race back to get to that point, and their crew was still alive. So they'd taken 2 rowboats, boated up all the loot, and gone in 2 different directions. One of them was a decoy with all the cheap loot, and one was one with all the really good stuff. We found the decoy, but before we'd noticed a trail of mermaids indicating a path they took. So we got that rowboat, we took all the loot, and then we looped back round. We saw the galleon coming in to rescue their guy on the rowboat. He was in the middle of the ocean, and we actually harpooned him. Like, pulled the rowboat round, and they steamed past and missed, got him on, killed him, and then we were away, and then we were being chased for literally 2 hours from this galleon, just refusing to give up. It was great. It was great. You have to play this game to understand why people are like, this is the best game I've ever had, because you just don't get these crazy shared world moments that you get in other games.
The emergent gameplay.
Oh, it was great. Honestly, I've never laughed so much in my life.
Nice buzzword right there, Ed.
Thank you. Anyway, and it's coming to Steam, so I'm jumping ahead of our schedule a little bit, but that's really cool. Good for
it's coming to Steam.
So that's what I'm playing. I'll shut up now.
Well, outside the usual duo or trio of games, Shadow of the Tomb Raider was on sale, so I bought it now, so I own it, rather than relying on Game Pass, because it's not on Game Pass anymore. But, it's funny, I was actually going to ask you, John, about doing a piece on this on the website, but I'm like, don't worry about it now, I'll just talk about it here. I'm playing a game. It's from the Creators Collection. It's currently free. We linked it in the Discord. There's a game called Omega Rally Championship.
Okay.
And it's, like I said, a Creators Collection game.
Is this, sorry, Creators Collection is the indie kind of...
Yeah, it's basically the idea. It's basically the XNA equivalent on
XNA,
Xbox One.
Yeah.
And I assume this is one dude. The developer's name, now the way he has spelled this, I've got a funny feeling it's meant to say anorexic, because it's lowercase nr, capital X, lowercase IC.
So that sounds like
anorexic. Yep.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is rough, polygon style, a la Virtua Racing, Virtua Fighter. Trigger to go, left stick to point your car in the direction you want to go. But the rally, it's an isometric racing game, very, very raw, very rough. But the driving model on it is unbelievable. Like, this guy needs to get a job, whether it's at Polyphony, whether it's at Playground, whether it's at Turd 10. Someone needs to give this guy a job developing a driving model for a major game. Like, this Omega Rally game, like, you can tell that this guy is he's not a creative in terms of design, but you can tell in terms of I guess that underlying
mechanical
mechanics and gameplay systems. This guy's unbelievable. Like it's funny the way he advertises his own game in the description. It talks about a new style of arcade racing control that anyone can pick up and play. And you know what? My 4-year-old saw it, wanted to play it, picked up the controller. I told him what was go, I told him what was turn, and he was playing it straight away. And he was doing drifts, he was doing power slides, he was doing it all within seconds. Like,
not bad.
Like I said, it's free. Anyone can grab it right now. Omega Rally Championship. Again, I'm not telling you it's the best game ever, but you can see the potential in the underlying mechanics. Like, the actual driving model is brilliant. It's really, really good. And surprisingly, I've been playing that. And I've also gone back to Punch-Out on the Wii. I don't know why. I think because I'm home so much, so I'm just playing more stuff.
Trying to get some exercise.
Yeah.
Now, Cairo, it's hilarious. Now I think of it, and I'm going to let you speak because I think I know the games that you're going to mention you've been playing, and I am stunned that we forgot to put it on our kind of summary about what we're going to talk about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Half-Life.
So I haven't beaten it. I'm about
halfway
VR. Through the game.
For those not watching on YouTube, Nick just noped out as soon as the VR conversation came up because this is a running joke. Sorry, Cairo. Please continue.
So when the game launched, I had an issue where after somewhere in the middle of chapter 4, the game would crash on loading the next area every single time. I fixed it after contacting Steam support, and they said, "Did you try verifying the game installation?" And then I looked in the mirror at myself like I'm a giant idiot. I said, "Oh, well, that I didn't try that to begin with." But the game is, oh my god, it is legitimately the craziest, most surreal experience I've had in gaming in my 24 years of life. It is just as mind-blowing as the physics engine was in Half-Life 2 at the time of its release. Because I remember being a kid, getting a pretty crappy PC and playing Half-Life 2 on it, and just the physics of the engine of that game was just phenomenal for the time. And you look at all the things that Valve has done with Half-Life Alyx, and the way the interactivity of the game works, the way you can literally just hold your hand out at something, flick it up with your wrist and grab it out of thin air, and just
it's the first time in VR that I felt that catching and manipulating things feels supernatural, and it's the detail that they put in. The
detail of the world.
If you reach out and there's something on a shelf, you can literally just move it to one side.
Move it out of the way. You can move it out of the way. You can throw it out of the way. You can use a chair to block a head crab flying at you and throw it through a window. I've seen videos of that on Twitter. It's phenomenal.
My brother's actually buying a Quest just to play Half-Life Alyx. So maybe I'll try his.
You definitely should.
Please,
I think he got one. He told me today that he was mucking around in VR, so he must have already got one.
Do you know what?
So I might have to.
I guarantee you that you will.
In
change
6
your
months,
mind
when
about
lockdown
VR.
is lifted.
I have to admit though, what has upset me a little bit is what I thought would happen has happened, and it is Ravenholm VR edition. Ravenholm creeped me out in Half-Life 2 as it was, and now I am struggling to continue.
Yeah, there's actually genuine moments of. There's actually genuine moments of horror in this game that I did not expect.
Yeah, it's a horror game.
I've jumped several times at things that honestly I wouldn't have gotten me had I gone into it thinking it was a horror game.
Yeah.
But because you're so immersed in how the world is laid out and how everything feels, you just feel more connected to the game.
Yeah.
in a way that's really hard to describe.
Yep.
You know, like you have to experience it for yourself to understand what I'm talking about, what anyone who has good things to say about that game is talking about. Because it's just there has been nothing like this before. Nothing like this before.
I would say if you're playing Half-Life Alyx, 100% try and pick up Lone Echo. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's still one of my favourite VR games. It's not as immersive, like the when we're talking in terms of production value and things. Half-Life Alyx is definitely the first real AAA VR game.
VR game, 100%,
100%, and it's really good.
Something else we forgot that I think we're all playing, or at least I know.
Are you just trying to switch the topic from VR because you don't want to talk about VR?
Little bit. Bleeding Edge.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bleeding Edge came out.
Bleeding Edge.
I actually stopped playing it.
Nah, I'm still playing it mainly because the achievements are gettable, so I'm just sort of pushing through to get the achievements.
My current problem, I don't know if they fixed it recently because I haven't heard anything about recent patches other than the one they released a couple days after launch. My current problem with the game is, and that patch didn't fix it. So, the death ball compositions that are prevalent right now are pissing me and my friends off to the point where we just refuse to play that game until it's fixed. Because it's quickly ending up in situations where people will pick Buttercup because for some damn reason, Ninja Theory thought it'd be great to have one of the fastest characters in the game be a tank and also do as much damage as she does. And all she does is harass you, pull you into her team, and then she and her team, if they're running a comp like an actual deathball comp, they will target individual players, jump on them, kill them, move on to the next player. And there's nothing you can do about it because they have so much health collectively that trying to peel away people is almost impossible, right? So you can't do the typical strategy against death balls that you see in other games. And for other games, and for the people who don't know what a death ball composition is essentially that. It's essentially you get a high damage, you get a character that's capable of pulling people in or stunning them or stun locking them into position. The entire team dives on that person and then rotates to the next person until the entire enemy team is killed. And it's one of the hardest compositions to fight against. Right?
Yeah.
Especially if you can't fight, especially if you're fighting against a team that always sticks together and you can never trick away, which is the only tactic. You have to get them to peel away. They can't all be together if you want to win that composition. Admit,
due to the way it plays, I've actually gotten quite good at lasting quite long in those death balls just through sheer necessity. I've actually gotten quite good at it. I last surprisingly long, especially if I've chosen a tank myself. But yeah, I have found with the game, one thing that definitely needs to change is the respawn time. It's just too long. It is too long.
It's way too long.
And it adds to the death ball thing. If you were respawning faster, you could get back in there to support the guy like me who's lasting as long as physically possible. But I found nearly every game is a landslide, one way or the other.
Yeah,
so
that's the big problem. That's the big problem. There's never close games in Bleeding Edge, and that just because when you're the one stomping someone, it feels great, right?
Yeah,
it's broken, but it feels great. But 9 times out of 10, and this is probably because we haven't spent enough time in the game to get better at it, but I kind of find that a difficult thing to gauge because there's only so much better you can be against a composition you keep running up against all the time, And
when you're on the winning team, that's just stomping the opposition.
But when you're on the losing team,
amazing. It's really good.
When you're on the losing team in Bleeding Edge, you fucking hate it. It is literally the angriest I've ever been in a video game in a while, and it is so awful. We stopped playing it because we couldn't take that anymore. It was just beating us into submission, and we couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and I think they've launched the game is fairly light as a package. Now, obviously, the price reflects that to a degree, and they've said that they're going to support it going forward. I know that when we do our community questions later, there are some questions around our thoughts on
Yeah.
Bleeding Edge. So I don't want to
Yep.
I don't want to dive in too much and then just avoid kind of answering that question. But it will be very, very interesting to see what's next for them and for supporting that game. We did see some cool kind of in Bleeding Edge you can get a Sea of Thieves hoverboard, and in Sea of Thieves you can get a Bleeding Edge ship. And I'm liking seeing that kind of support network across those Xbox Game Studios.
The cross-pollination.
It's lovely. It's lovely. We've got an Ori ship in Sea of Thieves as well. Halo, Perfect Dark, Conquer.
A couple other things that I didn't want to mention that, like, just in case in some far-flung future the Ninja Theory guys take a look at this and say, that's something. They probably already thought of it, but whatever. I don't like that both the modes, the two main modes of the game, I don't like it when they have more than at most 2 points active. Because for capture points, at least, like you don't have to worry about collecting anything, so it's just straight up capture points. But because there's too many objectives active at some points, you're dividing the focus of the team way too much. And you're leading into situations where one team can roam around as a death ball, following your trail as you're capping points, and they can still get more points over you because there's nothing you can do about it. Your attention is split so much over all these objectives that it becomes hard to actually focus on the fights. So, and then you're leaving like the most vulnerable players basically by their lonesome for the most part.
Yeah. I will say almost all my victories have come in the capture points, not the cell collection.
Same here. Like the cell collection is like it's a lot more difficult because you have to manage a resource,
Yeah.
If it was literally the cell collection would have been better if it's just 1 point active for the collection phase and everyone dogpiles on the point.
Actually, you know what? You want to know what would make cell collection infinitely better?
What?
If they took away that dumb mechanic where you've got to sit there and wait for them to deposit. Because the problem is just getting hit interrupts the deposit.
Yeah.
And so if you get a death ball, bang, that's it. It's impossible to deposit any power cells.
Honestly,
just let us run over the point and they instantly drop.
I don't care about them adding new characters and maps right now as much as I care about them fixing the problem of making it so that the only real viable composition for most players, because it just wins 9 times out of 10, is to deathball. Like, if you're not deathballing, then you're probably gonna lose if the other team is deathballing.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way. I focus on getting rid of that meta, because that's the meta that ruined like Overwatch for a year for a lot of people. And its variants also ruined that. That's honestly my one complaint. The game has potential.
Yeah, I think that's the very, very. If I could collect and look at all the feedback, is that most of the reviews are middling. Slicer for XboxEra gave Bleeding Edge, I think, a 7 out of 10. Kind of said, look,
7 or
the foundation's there. I enjoy what's there, but there needs to be more of it, and soon. Otherwise, it's mere distraction.
It's dead.
I think Eurogamer used the phrase "Game Pass fodder," which I don't like that phrase, but I can understand the mentality behind it. So it will be interesting to see what's going on. Obviously,
it's also blatantly false.
Yeah.
Like, the game was being made before they were purchased, so I don't know how it's Game Pass fodder.
Yeah, it's not released purely for Game Pass.
So the one thing I want to talk to you guys about, though, regarding Bleeding Edge, is the controversy surrounding a lot of the reviews for the game mentioning its potential as affecting the review score. And honestly, like, at least for me personally, I honestly don't think you should be judging a game based on what it could be more than what it is right now.
Yeah.
So I remember that controversy lighting up Era for a few days. We made, like, a bunch of people made fun of it in the XboxEra Discord, but I don't know.
Nah.
I think reviewing on potential is stupid.
Yeah, you can't review what
like anything has the potential to be good. Anything. Like, so it doesn't really make sense to give something a score based on a potential that it could be good. Like, like if Nick gave Red Dead Redemption 2 a 10 out of 10 for the potential of Rockstar fixing the controls he doesn't like, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point to make. But Bleeding Edge launched obviously Game Pass and Game Pass PC, but also on Steam as a budget title as well. And we've seen a lot of little PC gaming things. As we previously mentioned, we've obviously seen the store page go up for Sea of Thieves. We've got the Minecraft Dungeons beta, which has been announced.
I got in.
And it's got its own launcher, which is on PC as well. So we are not going via...
I wonder what the conversation on that's going to be, because PC gamers seem to be a bit...
against launchers?
Against anything that basically isn't Steam at this point. So
I don't know if that's true of all PC gamers. I think people will just play the games they want to play.
Hashtag not all PC gamers.
Yeah, so I don't know. It is what it is. But I know that we've got the Valorant closed betas going on.
Valorant closed beta.
Xbox really related, but...
It's not Xbox related, but it is interesting in the fact that it is very much in the wheelhouse of what Xbox has been focusing on in terms of multiplayer over the last few years. So they Riot opened up today at 10 a.m. with a bunch of streamers streaming gameplay of the game from a Twitch Rivals event that happened last week, last weekend. And so they were basically it was basically a huge gameplay blowout from different perspectives, different people's like takes and opinions on how the game played so far, all streamers. And if you watch the streams, you had a chance to get one of 25,000 whitelist entries. They're not keys, they're whitelist. So how Riot does it is, and I think it's a good idea for like any giveaway, Mixpot, Twitch, I don't care. You link your account, your Riot account, to your Twitch account. If you get in, they don't give you a code. They look at what your Riot account is, and they whitelist that. They add that Riot account to the whitelist like immediately. So there's no code to enter. So there's no key reselling.
Nice.
You know, the only issue is now people are working around that by selling accounts that got in.
Wow.
So I mean, it's not that much of a deterrent. But everything I've seen of the game is just fan-freaking-tastic. It is addressing so many of the complaints I've seen the CS:GO community have over the years. Because Valve doesn't really, well, let's just be honest, they don't really care all that much, to be completely like frank, and haven't really bothered fixing a lot of the issues that people have complained about. Valorant looks like it's addressing nearly every single one of them. And what gets me excited is one of the streamers I was watching, I think his name is Tim the Tatman.
Yep.
He had actual developers of the game come onto his stream and actually like answer his questions.
Interesting.
And one of the questions that was asked from his chat was, is there going to be a console release of this game? Riot has said they're focusing on the PC version right now, but future platforms are not out of the question. So, honestly...
They'd be silly not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they're releasing League of Legends Wild Rift on console and mobile later this year. And from what little they've shown of that game, it looks pretty great for a console mobile port. Well, console mobile... It's basically a brand spanking new game for console and mobile. But Valorant, definitely... We haven't seen a CSGO title... a CSGO-like title on console since CSGO on the 360, and that never got any updates. Because at the time, if we all remember, Microsoft was charging developers a lot of money just to update their games, right? Yeah. And Valve was having none of that. So they abandoned the CSGO port on 360 like almost immediately, outside of like crashing bug fixes. That's about it. And that game is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So we've never had another another CS game on console in a long time. And honestly, I think Microsoft would be smart if they're chasing that PC crowd to get something working with Riot to bring Valorant to console, especially for like maybe the Series X launch or sometime into 2021, where they can just come out on stage, where they can just come out on stage and say, look at all these PC games coming over to Xbox for an exclusive time period or something, right?
Yeah.
How much of a great boon it is that we're supporting both platforms, right? And Valorant is announced as like the headlining title for that.
Yeah, it will definitely get a different kind of buzz behind it. Be interesting to see if that happens. It's funny, Microsoft's support of PC, I think, initially, and I think to a degree perhaps some PlayStation fans are going through, well, Xbox fans went through, a number of years back when it was like, yeah, we're there on both platforms. Why shouldn't we do this? And then, the console's going to die. And then, no, both can coexist. It's okay. And we've seen now, like, I think on Steam, there's an Xbox Game Studios publisher sale with like a bunch of savings on Master Chief Collection.
Bunch of savings. It's really extensive too. Yeah. Not too big sales. Like I think the most was 33% off. Yeah. But even still, like seeing Xbox Game Studios as a logo on the Steam homepage for a little bit there was
crazy times.
Surreal to me.
Crazy times.
And I think Sony would be stupid to not chase after the PC market as well.
It's just leaving money on the table.
Just leaving money on the table. I mean, we're getting their PC's getting Horizon, right, later this year.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing stuff like Days Gone, older games like Bloodborne make their way over to PC.
Last Guardian, Gravity Rush 2.
Last Guardian, Gravity Rush 2.
The games that weren't the highlight blockbusters. I mean, Bloodborne kind of was, but besides Bloodborne, like the games that weren't really lighting the charts up, as much as like a Last of Us or an Uncharted or any of those other games.
Yeah. Now
I think
that's a good segue. Crazy. Actually, that's a good segue. COVID-19 has shook the world, and it's shaken all of our lives in one form or another. Some people are at work, some people aren't. Some people
some people with a lot of money are trying to tell people that they should die for the U.S. economy. That's fun.
Yeah. Well. But we have seen games being delayed, and specifically when you mentioned The Last of Us, we've seen The Last of Us 2 has now been delayed indefinitely. And I think that the general gist of that is saying that, the game could launch, but when every physical store is pretty much closed, that's going to really affect Sony's bottom line.
Yeah.
This is one of their biggest game releases.
Especially for a console where a lot of people still rely on physical.
Down, it almost seemed like Naughty Dog weren't even aware that delay was coming. Like Druckmann had tweeted just 2 or 3 days earlier talking about looking forward to the game or something, and then like literally it's almost like this was Sony's decision. Like Sony came over the top and were like, look, this is causing issues. All the shops we want to release this in physically aren't going to be open. So maybe our digital penetration isn't where we want it to be to justify releasing our biggest game of the of the year.
Yeah.
Let's just hold off.
Or certainly isn't where they want it to be in all regions that could potentially see that massive sales uptick from a physical release.
It's definitely a wonky situation.
And
the indefinitely part of that release delay timing has got me interested.
Single player games, you wouldn't have thought. I mean, we don't know the statistics, but you would have thought that single player games wouldn't have the same digital penetration that a multiplayer game would, or a game with a multiplayer component. And of course, the multiplayer component isn't there at the moment. So it could just be that Sony came over the top and said, "Look, let's just hold off a little bit longer." Till we can have the same physical launch that we would like to have.
But it does raise some questions, since this was prompted by COVID-19. Like, if the delay is indefinite, depending on how the world situation shakes out, physical game stores might not even be doing much in countries that are deeply, deeply affected by this for like maybe even up to a year, you know?
Yeah.
Especially in like Italy, especially in like Italy where like almost like a ton of the population, like I think over 50% of the population is infected now or something. I don't remember the statistics. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
It's pretty bad over there. I wouldn't say it's 50%.
It's pretty freaking bad. And it's only likely to get worse as the months roll on. Could we see Last of Us get delayed into 2021? Like, especially if they can't justify a digital release, knowing maybe that their digital penetration isn't as good as they want it to be. Because there was a thread on Era that was just posted today, as of the recording of this podcast, that Druckmann's thoughts were along the lines of the studio was still debating on whether or not a digital-only release would cut it. And if push comes to shove, I could see them maybe midsummer or early fall.
You can see
pushing it out.
Your connection's frozen. Let's guessing game. Finish
am I
sentence.
back? Am I back?
This again is the reality of trying to do a podcast over the internet. We missed you, Cairo. You completely froze there.
He's back.
Am I back?
Try and repeat that.
Hello?
Yeah.
I was about to say that now I can't remember what I was. Oh yeah, I could see them saying something like, "We're going to push out a digital only release." Did it freeze again?
Well,
and they say that Australians have third world internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Cairo, you died again. Perhaps the Sony sort of team are just muting your connection whenever you're trying to say what you're trying to say there. Conspiracy theories are rife. But we get the gist, right? So, and look, let's be fair. The PlayStation team and the Sony camp aren't the only ones affected by this. We've seen In Exile with Microsoft Studios announce... Microsoft Studios? Where am I? Xbox Game Studios also announce a delay. Not indefinite delay, but like I think it was a couple of months that they added to the time frame for release of Wasteland 3. And the real question is are we going to see more... potential pushbacks, and
I can tell you 100% we are. Like,
oh yeah,
I was told a while back that pretty much everything that was due to release in April or later, there's a very good chance it gets delayed. Even games that have already received delays.
Wow.
So, what games have already received delays? Taking Last of Us out of it, because that was like literally a day ago. What games have already received delays?
Cyberpunk received a delay. Yeah, to September.
Might get another one.
Oh my goodness.
Might get another one. Who knows?
We're probably gonna be in this for a long time.
Tactics.
They've
announced the Gears Tactics release date now, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've said.
Well, they had announced the Last of Us 2 release date too.
Yeah, but they announced it this week, so they must know where they're landing because they're already in. This
okay.
All you can really say about the situation at this point is prepare for unforeseen consequences.
Basically, this is our chance to
attack your backlogs, people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Finish your friggin' backlog at this point.
This is the chance.
Yeah.
We might it's still a possibility that either a limited launch of the next gen consoles comes out this year, or the launch of the consoles is delayed into 2021.
Well,
it's still
speaking of Cairo's connection being like Phil Spencer's. Phil Spencer, he was on IGN's podcast, and they were he was on IGN's podcast, and they were talking about the console and whether they thought it would get delayed and that sort of stuff. I got the sense from that interview that I don't think Series X is being delayed.
Yeah.
That's the sense that I got from that interview.
I feel like from that interview, they pretty much set themselves up to basically, without even saying it outright, we are fully prepared to launch this thing this year.
Yeah.
100%.
It was very much, and I think one of the I'm paraphrasing this quote perhaps, but we will not delay the launch of the hardware for any singular game.
For any game. So,
including Halo?
That's right, yeah. That would suggest that Halo and the Series X are not intrinsically tied to each other, like we probably thought they were. And it's funny, Phil did 2 podcasts with IGN.
Yeah,
hasn't even done one with ours yet. He's
actually
been on the Discord now since all this started. He's actually been online in the Discord, still not saying anything.
This is very quiet. It's very quiet.
But
he's just lurking.
He was on both IGN podcasts, and I have to say it's extraordinarily interesting that there's no even passing mention of Lockhart. So it seems pretty clear that Ryan was instructed, do not ask about Lockhart.
Yeah, and I got that impression from Digital Foundry as well, and the Austin who came out when they did the whole XSX deep dive.
No one's mentioning it.
It was mentioned very, very briefly in Austin's he does like a podcasty type thing with his team afterwards, and they said something along the lines of like, what about Series Y or whatever it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a thing? And it was just almost avoided. So I get the distinct impression that has been seen and that they're teeing something up. We saw in the Phil Spencer interview, and particularly the latest one, so not the Ryan McCaffrey podcast one for Unlocked, but the Next Gen Watch or whatever they call it, that show.
Yeah.
He said, They said, have we done from a hardware perspective? Is it all just games going forward? And Phil, paraphrasing again, we've got a couple more hardware things to talk about. So, but also, and there's just so much to unpack here, really. From a price perspective, that was something that IGN hammered them on, and as much as perhaps, certainly in my opinion, there were some softball questions there. The price element kept getting hammered, right, about how critical it was, and the best way that I kind of took that was that prior to the Xbox Game Studios team that we have now, where it's actually supported as a business unit within Microsoft from up here and not from here, they have some serious room to be flexible and competitive on price. And as much as I'm expecting Series X to be a $499, and I'm talking dollars here for our US
it's still a possibility that $399 is on the table.
If they really, if they want that mic drop moment, it would be very cool. And equally, if Lockhart is going to come, and even though they might be launching the Series X at a lower price point to really have that massive splash that it could achieve, if they're releasing the Lockhart, the Series S or E or whatever they end up calling it, if it's launching at $199, $249, and it's like, and also there's this for people that don't care about 4K, it does the same thing, have fun. It could be a real winning combo. Obviously, we'll have to deal with, for the majority of the gen, it's holding the generation back arguments.
Unless it's the thing that we theorized last episode.
Yes, unless it's
a streaming box.
Hybrid of some description. But I think we are going to get answers to those questions soon. Rather than later. You guys know, I've said all along that I think $599 is a real possibility. After that interview, $599 is no longer a possibility. Yeah, like this thing is either going to be $499 or $399.
Yeah,
100%. I don't think they're going to go anywhere near $599 now. No way.
Yeah,
not anymore.
That was still even. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was ever. People putting that on the table of $599.
I thought it was. I thought it was definitely on the table.
Yeah, and at the time, I feel like, if I remember right, I did call you out on that for being kind of ludicrous. Because it doesn't make sense for a console to launch at $600.
Especially in the economy that it is now going to be.
Being the economy that it is.
Oh yeah, I know.
The access people have to luxury electronics like a console. They're not going to want to price people out. You know,
but I was talking 599 much earlier in the year before this all started, and late last year. Like 599 isn't the boogeyman type of price that it was in 2006. Like, let's be real now. Like, we're talking about, in 2006 the iPhone didn't exist, and iPhones now cost close to $2,000. Like, I don't.
But that's ignoring the reality that most people like. Apple's new phone sales have been declining over years. People buy an iPhone and they stick with it now. Like, my parents are on, anecdotally, my parents haven't moved up. My dad hasn't moved from his iPhone 8 since it launched. And that was
I've
what,
still got
3
an 8
years
Plus.
ago?
I've still got an 8 Plus.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: Phil also said in the Next Gen Watch show that they've got their Xbox All Access, which is their version of a mobile contract for your console hardware, Game Pass, and a monthly fee. So it sounds like they are in a really good position, and as weird as it is, the economy that they are launching into, this is a luxury. This is a not a necessity for life. All right, let's be real. It's games.
Yeah,
but
if you're in a situation from COVID that you're struggling to find cash, don't buy an Xbox.
Well, but here's the thing. This is what I'm saying. So if they are launching Lockhart, they're in a position to, for those that can, Series X is their poster child, but for those that are affected, there's a way to jump on that bandwagon if Lockhart does come out
cheaply
at a much lower price. And in the economy that we are heading towards, that's attractive. That's an attractive
Lockhart
proposition.
makes a little bit more sense now.
It does now, yeah. And maybe that's the real conspiracy. Is it a Microsoft plot? Who knows?
Did Microsoft start COVID-19
5G,
to sell Lockhart units?
It's an Xbox hardware sales plot. I don't know.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, that's.
But
that's BS.
It was a as much as it. I would have asked some different questions had I been in Ryan McCaffrey's seat.
But I mean, we know as well as they do that. Like, I mean, even when we had the Thomases on, when we had Adam on, we tried to respect their position and ask them, look, is there anything you'd like us to stay away from? Like, because people need to understand that before these people get on, they have to run, especially with lesser known outlets, call it outlets, they have to run stuff by PR. Like, when we had Adam Isgreen on last year, it wasn't just a case of, hey, Adam, want to be on? Yep. And he was just on. He had to actually speak to Microsoft PR. They had to watch an episode of the show. They had to check us out. It's not just a case of they just come on, say whatever the hell they want, and that's it. Like, IGN 100% would have been like, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about this. We're not ready to explain this yet.
And that's the same for any press environment. There are questions when you do an interview that are off the table. But there are some things I would have asked, and Phil, if you fancy a challenge. But we'll see. It's still an objective. There's plenty more.
We'll still try and get him on. It should be easier now. He's stuck at home.
Yeah. Drop him a DM. If
he ain't
you're
going
on the podcast
anywhere.
circuit right now, come on and spend some time. But it definitely was a great interview. We saw some really good stuff in terms of some hints towards the first-party roadmap. We saw, and indeed we've seen
Perfect Dark's coming,
man.
man.
This year, there's a game releasing from a Xbox studio, like almost once a month. Like just, but and it's great. I mean,
and if they keep that release cadence up, that's great into the next gen. Like straight up.
Yeah. And
if people can expect at least one Microsoft title every month.
And this
at least one every couple months for the duration of the year. That's great.
I think it'll be on, like, when you go across the year, it'll be on average almost one a month, on average.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, most interesting things to me that I kind of touched on was when he was talking about what a launch day looks like, and we've said this before, right? But he kind of alluded to the fact that traditionally console launches, and Xbox One launched with a fairly good slate, not great, but a good variety of games, but probably quite a lot. And, you go back to those times. I mean, this is 2013. Go into the store, you pick your couple of launch games, and suddenly, your £400 console becomes a £500 console because you bought 2 games and whatever else you end up, accessories and stuff you end up buying. But we're in a world now where he effectively said, look, maybe it's not about launching six Microsoft first-party games on day one, right? If you are launching with Halo, the majority of your customer base is going to get that game. And then it's a case of, rather than what do you stack at that front end on that day one, okay, what's week 1 look like? And then what does week 3 look like? And when do these cadence of releases start dropping? And I think that is definitely more interesting to me in terms of what that feels like, because I remember buying the 360 on day one, and it was like you played whatever games you're interested in, and then there was nothing. Geometry Wars was literally like the best exclusive for the first 3 months on that console. Or I started playing Halo 2 on back compat. It was just...
I mean, with backwards compatibility, speaking of backwards compatibility, like, straight up, we're going into a launch that's kind of unprecedented, where people can just say, yeah, like, we don't really care that much about a launch library because we still have games from last year we can play on the new box. You know? Like,
and updates, games will get updated and stuff.
Does a launch lineup matter now when people are basically just upgrading the box rather than simply buying a new machine with its own ecosystem?
Yep.
Like, now it's a question of, well, I can wait and sit on that $400 to $500 and not get the console for now and still be able to play all my games with all my friends that do buy the console.
Yep.
Or I can buy the console now and be able to play with all these fancy graphics and get all the upgrades that might come along with that, Yeah. And it's a nice feeling to be in a situation like that now, because now you don't have to give up what came in the past, because it's all coming with you now.
Yeah, and I really like this kind of blended future. Like, I know that not every one of my friends is in a position, nor do they want to. They as we've all grown as people that invest in this hobby. Some people love their consoles and only want to play there. Some people have gone like, what? I've got a really great PC. I don't need to buy a console anymore. That's where I want to play my games. Oh, great. Well, now we can all play together, so it doesn't matter. You're no longer gatekeeping people into a walled garden that says you can only play here. Well, some platforms, maybe.
Yeah.
But I like this new era and this new world that we're in, and I think it's...
Remember when people laughed at Microsoft saying that the Xbox One was going to be forward compatible? And now we're entering a new generation and it's pretty much forward compatible?
Yeah, well...
Like...
obviously that's not the only next gen news that dropped. The other camp, they had their technical deep dive, their presentation into the PlayStation 5. It looks like a fantastic console. There's lots of very very cool.
Did we mention this on last episode?
I can't remember when the actual. I think it dropped.
We did. We spoke about it as part of the
next gen talk.
Yeah, and I think
spec stuff. Yeah,
I think Eurogamer just did or Digital Foundry via Eurogamer, I should say, just did a kind of like a further clarifying deep dive, and there's some really cool stuff here. I think there's a lot of console wars type stuff, and some of it's hilarious. And from my personal viewpoint, I do just find it funny. All the going to bat, whatever, it is just fun. But at the end of the day, it looks like we're looking at a really, really good gen. We're looking at a really good competitive, genre changing. There's going to be unexpected things. There's going to be new things, and it's just really exciting time if you're into video games. So for all the crazy stuff going on in the world, try and gain some perspective and perhaps approach it from a little bit more of a light-hearted viewpoint, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter as long as you're having a good time. Everything else is kind of crazy right now, so just try and focus on the good stuff is my philosophical takeaway for the day. So I think swiftly pivoting, we do have our other favourite staple question where we ask our wonderful community for questions and what they want to see our sort of takes on, which is community questions time. So we've put a shout out on Twitter, on the Resetera main official thread, and via our XboxEra Discord. What should we hit up first? Should we go with Twitter first of all, seeing as it's on my screen right now? A frequent customer, Hypernova474. This is a good one. So, do we think that Xbox will have any events or showcases between their digital presentation that is now replacing what would have been E3 in June or XO20 or whatever it's called? Now, we said on this podcast that, again, this is January, before COVID really found its feet. And last year, we said that we were thinking April is what we were hearing from the Microsoft camp for a sort of Xbox One style, here's the hardware, here's a few games, here's the console OS, blah, blah, blah. What do we think, Ed?
I don't know. I mean, remember when I was told about the April event and Elden Ring being at that event, Corona wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So once Corona started, everything's kind of off the table. Sort of like the rumoured February PlayStation event.
Yeah.
You know, again, all those rumours started before Corona was a thing. So there's every chance that PlayStation meeting was happening in February, but then Corona started late Jan, early Feb, and all of a sudden that changed. So, look, if you look at Microsoft's, to borrow your word, cadence, since the Game Awards, there's been something almost every month. January still had a couple of smaller things, but Microsoft has technically had something every month. December, January, February, March. So, based on that, I'd like to believe that the April thing is still happening in digital form.
In some form, yeah.
But I'm likely to think now that the Elden Ring gameplay will probably, at a guess, end up at the E3 digital event more likely. That's the way it's looking.
Yep.
But hopefully there's still something for April, unless the IGN interviews are it. I don't know.
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, and Phil, as I said earlier in this podcast, he did say we've got a couple more hardware things to talk about. So one of them's got to be Lockhart. And I'm not quite sure what the other one's going to be, but I'm intrigued. Is it going to be something to do with xCloud? Don't know.
It could be just another Series X thing.
Could be. And it's exciting, right? We don't really know.
Because it's not going to be an Elite Series 3.
No, they better bloody not be, considering how much this thing cost. I have to say though, I do love this pad.
It's amazing.
It's genuinely just great. But yeah, so it's a good question. But the short answer to that, I think, unless you have anything to add, Cairo, is we expect something in April. Maybe not something in May. And if there is, it'll be a small thing, but definitely, the usual big blowout. You got to remember, Phil is on the ESA board for E3, so he knows.
I think every major publisher or console manufacturer is on the.
There
ESA
are a lot
board.
of them. I don't think Sony
Probably.
is, but they haven't turned up for the last 2 years. So anyway, So the next question we have is actually from one of my pals in the UK who listens to this show religiously to try and keep up with general gaming news. This is Vinny13 or at Vinny UK. How do the esteemed podcast hosts think that COVID-19 will affect new console sales? Less than expected because of financial worry, more because people haven't been spending their disposable income going out, less because of Xbox's commitment to cross-gen games. Love the show. So, yeah, I think we kind of spoke about this earlier on when we were talking about the whole COVID-19 affecting everything. But yeah, I think the middle one, I think the business is quite robust in times
I wanted to say earlier when we were discussing that, everyone's talking about in this economy. Yeah, but at the same time, everyone's stuck at home and wants something to do.
It's a value proposition.
And who themselves said, play video games. It's a great way to socialize without socializing. So I actually think there's going to be demand for them. Like, people are done with the older ones, and if they know that all their old games can play on these new consoles, I think people are going to want to buy them.
100%.
So I don't think the demand's going to be the issue, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the supply will be, though.
And it's funny because whilst it's not strictly a question, at T-Reeks or T-Treeks on Twitter, he did comment and say, lack of production will probably have an effect. And I think that's the bigger worry is, the hardware is definitely going to launch, I think. Like, I'm pretty confident in saying that, but does it launch in limited quantities per country?
For sure.
Probably for sure.
The thing that worries me the most, too, is once the initial stock run goes out, we're not going to see another stock run for...
Not for a while.
Not for a while. How badly are people going to want an Xbox or a PlayStation 5? They're going to go to the scalpers charging $2,000 for a box.
Oh, yeah. You're going to see some expensive consoles on eBay. Like, unheard of prices, man. Like, even this, my Animal Crossing Switch, like, that sold out within a couple of days of going on pre-order. I was very lucky to get mine. I jumped on eBay, and they were selling, not being listed at, I'm saying sold, for well over $1,000 Australian dollars. 1,500, 1,200, like unbelievable prices. I
wouldn't be surprised if the consoles do launch, right? And any planned exclusives or whatever just end up coming to the Xbox One and PS4 anyway, because people can't get their hands on a box fast enough to play those games.
Well, I think that's why the whole cross-generational approach initially is the right one to make, because the games that are really going to take advantage of the hardware's pretty much just been finalized. Final dev kits are going out now-ish, right? That's final dev kits. So only really now, at this moment, can you say, this is what I'm developing towards. So you're not going to see games that take advantage of how an SSD is going to change game design until that point, so a couple of years out. So it doesn't make any sense to gatekeep exclusive games. They're exclusive features and graphical features to games, like ray tracing, like 3D audio. That stuff can be gatekeeped because that's a feature of that hardware. But the actual underlying game design, if you can just take down the effects, take down the texture resolution, take down the actual output resolution of your game and just port it down, why not? You're leaving money on the table. It doesn't matter. And the people that are so hung up on the fact that there's got to be games that are only for that box, I think are in the wrong camp on this one. That's just my thoughts.
Especially now that we're dealing with this pandemic, people aren't going to be able to grab their hands on a new box quick enough to satisfy the exclusive thirst, like, especially if we launch in limited quantities. Yep. You just have to concede that people are still going to want to play these games, and the only way they can play them for the moment is going to be on the old hardware. Flat out. Because they already own the old hardware,
Exactly right. So, it's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, good question. And then the other one we've got on Twitter here from Flem, aka at, this is unpronounceable, Flemington. I'm going to say Flemington. That's your new name. At E319, there was a rumor that Microsoft had acquired a Japanese publisher, which was apparently Capcom. Now we have a rumor about IPs from Konami. Paste bin lol. Do we think Microsoft is going to acquire a Japanese publisher in the near future? No. Cairo.
No. No. Why? Like, at this point, they're just settled and gearing up for launch. There is no reason at all to purchase another developer, or even a publisher for that matter, right now. Maybe in some far-flung future, if they find that they need more Japanese content on Game Pass.
I have a
theory. But for the moment, I think, no.
I have a theory. I don't think it's a purchase. I think this is a
A partnership.
Co-development partnership.
So let's be honest, right? Game Pass is huge, and whilst we don't have official numbers, we are in the millions of subscribers, right? And it's only getting bigger, and it's only getting more focus and more traction within the gaming sort of communities. If you were to partner with a publisher and say, hey, the games that don't perhaps traditionally sell well on Xbox, they will launch exclusively into Game Pass. I think we might see stuff like that, even with like EA Access. I mean,
we've already seen it.
We've already seen it
with Kingdom Hearts, with Yakuza, with
I think we'll see stuff
Final
like
Fantasy.
that. I think we'll see stuff like that, and even EA Access, right? Like, I have no idea how that's doing, right? And I haven't heard them speak about it, talk about.
We don't hear much about it anymore, do we?
And when people were talking about this whole EA purchase, do you remember the crazy rumors Microsoft were buying EA, and it was hilarious?
Yeah.
Like, there's no grain in truth in that, but what we do know is that Microsoft traditionally very, very closely knit with EA. There's a lot of marketing deals that go their way. We saw FIFA as one of the CGI moments when we were introduced to Xbox Series X.
Was it
do
FIFA?
I expect
was
FIFA?
PES?
Good question. But do we expect a football
question.
partnership? Is it going to be EA with FIFA again to really kind of get Europe back on board?
Maybe
with
they
Xbox?
did buy Konami and they own PES now.
Oh my god! Yeah, I don't think they're going to buy a publisher, but partnerships I can see. But yeah,
I can see something along the lines of like maybe because Kojima is his own studio, right? Like it's not even owned by Sony, and I'm pretty sure Kojima's not in the business of selling his studio to Sony. So if hypothetically this whole partnership thing checks out, I could maybe see Xbox trying to get another Metal Gear game out of Kojima exclusively to Xbox.
Cool, that would ruffle some feathers.
That would ruffle some feathers. Real bad.
I think we might at best get one acquisition this year, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I know within the Discord there was sort of
the wine bottle hitting the side of the Xbox Series X ship.
Yeah, there was sort of
is this metaphor just like, or
yeah, I didn't get it.
So when you inaugurate a new ship, it used to be tradition where you get the wine bottle and you smack it against the hull.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So acquiring the studio would be the wine bottle, and the hull would be the Series X.
But what were you saying about Mimi?
There was a bit of a meme sort of movement going on within the Discord last year. Hashtag 20 by 2020.
Oh yeah.
And as much as I tried to pour water on it, and I countered that movement with a hashtag 15 by 2020, which by the way ended up being right. We did only end up with 15.
Yep.
I think maybe at best we get one this year.
Yeah.
At best.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because it could be possible that any talks with any studios are now on hold or in flux due to all this stuff. So, I mean, obviously everyone has ideas on who they should be looking at, like a Sobo. But, a lot of the studios that were rumoured are obviously overseas studios. So they're going to be the toughest ones to move ahead with under the current climate.
Yeah.
So...
Honestly, all this talk of Xbox acquiring studios just keeps reminding me of all the weird people on Era that kept complaining about how Xbox wasn't building their own studios from the ground up and they were doing it the wrong way. And this isn't how we wanted new studios, Microsoft. And it's just, Jesus. Oh my God. And then people had to point out that Naughty Dog was purchased by Sony and was never built by Sony.
Well, look, they are building new studios, right? We've seen it with
The Initiative.
The Initiative. I think World's Edge, the team that is coming behind, who is developing World's Edge at the moment is World's Edge. Age of Empires.
Age of Empires.
Creative Assembly. I can't remember which one is it. It's a Sega game.
I think it's Relic. It was Relic.
Is it Relic?
I thought it was Relic.
I can't remember. But we're seeing teams come together anyway. So, and I'm loving the whole cross pollination between those. teams.
Not just that. I mean, part of the reason I was never on board with the extra studios is, a lot of Microsoft's first-party teams, don't forget, have multiple teams within
multiple
them.
teams, yeah.
So it seems silly. So if Playground has two teams both capable of developing a AAA game, you've effectively got two studios.
Yep.
Yeah, because Obsidian right now they're doing that new ground. Is it called Grounded?
Yep.
I think, right?
Yep.
Okay, they're doing Grounded with a small team
of like 12.
But then they got most of their studio on a new AAA RPG headed up by, I think, Chris Sawyer, and some hints on. I remember reading some old forum posts by Chris Avallone complaining about Obsidian, like he usually does nowadays, saying how Sawyer was looking to make
his version of Skyrim.
His Skyrim, yeah. So some indirect hype there, I guess.
Yeah. We know that In Exile as well are producing an ambitious AAA. And I think In Exile is a company to watch. Like, if you look at Wasteland 3, the quality that's coming out of that studio now, they've got that extra time and budget from MS.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, you've got Ninja Theory on Bleeding Edge, plus Hellblade.
Project Mara.
You've got Rare doing more than just Sea of Thieves.
Everwild,
and something else.
Yeah, and I was about to... Yeah, that's what I was referring to. I completely forgot about Everwild. So when you've got these big studios with multiple teams, they probably don't see the need to just go acquire... Again, I'm not saying they're never going to acquire anyone new again. I mean, we pretty much know basically for a fact that they are in at least talks with other studios. But that doesn't necessarily mean, they'll acquire. And there's still double... I just think that when you've got that many big studios with multiple teams within them, you've effectively already got 20 plus studios for all intents and purposes.
Especially when you've got different creative leads that are incubating within those studios, like with the next big idea, and then the next team is spun up to support that game as the other game releases, and then you're in sustain, and that is it's just the nature of it. And I think it's
and then on top of that, you've got global publishing who would be doing third-party partnerships behind the scenes, like your Rises, your Dead Rising 3s, your Oris, so you've got that as well. So there's just no need for more studios. There's already so much.
Especially when you got such creative teams, right? Like Phil Spencer has gone on the record before saying that they chose the teams they did because they had seen creative potential with those teams. So it just makes sense to me more so that they would stick with trying to cultivate the talent that already exists at those studios into being powerhouses, right? Because In Exile would have never been a AAA studio had it not been acquired by Microsoft, and now they're working on a AAA RPG.
And they're in a really good area for talent.
And they just got the combat designer from God of War, which is good.
Yeah, so the amount of creative potential that the team, and especially when you got guys like Double Fine in Microsoft's pocket now,
so
guys
many cool
that
games going to come from them.
Guys who just live and breathe creativity, I just don't think there's a need for another studio at this point.
Yeah. For the record,
what point is there?
That's one podcast guest I would absolutely kill someone to get on. If we could get Tim Schafer on, God.
Tim, that'd be great.
We can have a crack at it. I'll put my stalking powers to.
Let's see if we can get him in
to use.
That's a good question. So definitely more to come, I think, on all sides. But I don't think any publisher acquisitions. I think that's probably above and beyond.
No way.
No way. Should we hit up the Discord next? Have you got that open at the moment?
Yep, I do. First question is from Suka Brood. It's about Bleeding Edge. He asks if we think that Bleeding Edge has met expectations from Ninja Theory, and how do you think the game's performance will affect its future plans? I don't know. I mean, I doubt their expectations were that high of Bleeding Edge, to be honest.
Same. I think they invested enough in it, and it was a niche product for a niche market, and they were like, you know what?
I feel like they knew what they were going into.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with Game Pass, at least they had the security of saying, well, we can just release this game. We'll have some people try it out. Hopefully some stick around enough that we can keep developing on this idea.
Yeah, I almost feel like all the newfound money was put into maybe polishing it up, which they really did. Like, I know it's bare bones, and I know it's got its issues, but it still looks... I don't know how to explain it.
It's just consistently designed.
Yeah, it's just clean and tight and polished.
Speaking of design and more bleeding edge, I want that damn soundtrack to release on like Apple Music and Spotify because I need that on my phone. Some of those tracks are insanely good. Like whoever they got doing the music for that game is great.
I've heard nothing.
And you know, in terms of the game's future, one of the things that I keep thinking every time I play it, I feel like its world could lend really well to an action brawler beat 'em up game, almost like a 3D Streets of Rage. So, you know, you pick your character and just like in Streets of Rage and you walk along and just beat the crap out of people, and I don't know, like I feel like its universe could lend well to other genres.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope they persist with it.
But I don't think...
Speaking of bleeding edge... Oh, go. Sorry,
I was just going to say, like, the other part of that question was how we think the game's performance will affect its future. So they've obviously said there's more to come. The cosmetics and stuff that are available in the game aren't broad or particularly sweet.
I don't think it'll affect their future much, really.
I think one of two things will happen. One is they have the next 3 to 6 months planned out, and it's sustainable for them as a studio, and they'll do it. And that's it. And it will be put into what I would call steady state from a business perspective.
We know now that Phil is letting studios continue to support games. So my guess is that they'll try and pull off a For Honor style turnaround for Bleeding Edge.
Maybe.
Like For Honor's not huge, but it still has a presence.
It's got a good following. They still have good seasons coming in and out.
And I think they'll look to For Honor as their blueprint in terms of how they continue to support Bleeding Edge. Like they're not going to sit there and look at Rainbow Six Siege. They're not going to sit there and even look at Sea of Thieves or I think they'll use For Honor as their blueprint for Bleeding Edge is never going to be huge, but maybe we can cultivate ourselves a really hardcore, dedicated fan base that will just keep supporting it, keep pumping money into it, keep, whatever.
I also think, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something announced towards the summer in some digital form. And obviously, again, this whole virus stuff prevents companies from perhaps doing the kind of stuff that they may have had planned, but like an invitational, because one thing I have heard is at a high level, the game is extremely entertaining to watch, be played, and will we see like some form of Twitch Rivals mixer invitational with a prize pool for digital teams to get together? No, obviously that can no longer be an event with cameras and all of that stuff because that's the nature of it, but will we see something like that? Again, I think we will, to try and revitalise and perhaps draw some attention in, get some viewership on it. It's definitely something to think about. Good question. What we got next?
Yeah, there's a follow-up, less serious question from Blast the Bass. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Game of the Year and 10 being Game of the Generation, where does Bleeding Edge land for you?
For me, not on that scale, I'm afraid. It's not particularly
negative
my forte.
7. I mean, look, like I've said all along, it's fine. Like it's a 7. Like for me, it is a 7. Like a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, with potential for more.
But here, remember the trick is that 1 is Game of the Year. And 10 is Game of the Generation.
I know.
So doesn't give us much wiggle room.
On the dumb scale, it's not there, but on the normal scale,
let's be honest, it's no Crackdown 3, right?
It's no Crackdown 3.
Stop.
It's definitely not Crackdown 3.
Stop. It's better than Crackdown 3, I can tell you that much.
And it's definitely no Killzone Shadowfall.
Wow.
But, Killzone Shadowfall is an awful game, and you should still feel bad about supporting it.
And in case, I'm giving Starlatina a heads up. If he tries to skip your question, don't worry, I've got you.
No. I won't skip it. I know it's further down. I'm just trying to see. There's a sort of a question directed directly at you from Token Aussie.
Yeah, well, and we've got an answer to this one because we've seen some stuff already. So it's kind of was answered before we asked it.
Yeah, when is the next blowout? We just had a bunch of great content from ID at Xbox, so will we see the console OS and features and games in an April digital campaign, or are we waiting for a huge June blowout? So yeah,
we've covered it.
We kind of already spoke. That was an earlier Twitter question.
Yeah.
So sorry, Aussie.
April still. Sorry,
not talking
Aussie.
about it anymore.
We love you.
Suka Brood, another question. With Sea of Thieves coming to Steam, how do you think it will perform on that platform, and what do you guys think the chances are of Forza Horizon 4 coming to Steam?
I think it coming to Steam will open it up to a lot of people that never wanted to bother with the Windows launcher.
Yeah, I think it's going to do gangbusters on Steam because I think it'll do okay. Just bloody good fun.
And honestly, with the big support Xbox Game Studios is showing for the PC platform by releasing a lot more games on Steam, I wouldn't doubt at some point that they have at the very least considered bringing Forza Horizon 4 to Steam. If not, said, yeah, we're going to do that.
Forza,
go on.
I was going to say, I think with Forza Horizon 4, it'll depend on what's happening with Forza this year.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
I think the other side of that coin is licensing. We've seen when Forza Horizon 2 was coming to the end of its license terms, they just gave it away on Games with Gold to let as many people have the game forever before they had to delist it. And this is the problem when you pull in artist soundtracks and vehicle licenses and all that stuff. You only have a limited window.
Because lifetime licenses are expensive.
Yes.
Speaking of Forza Horizon 2, though, we still have a copy of that I think we might give away soon.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of my IRL pals have been trying to organise a Forza Horizon night, and what they found with 4, and this is, mechanical hard drive rearing its head. They are some really obnoxious loading times in that game.
Load times.
Awful,
unbelievable load
awful
times.
Load times.
Really full
They
on.
were like, let's go back to Forza Horizon 2. The matchmaking was better, or the multiplayer was better, but not everyone has that. And if they didn't pick it up when it was free, they're out of luck because they can't buy it. So that code might go down well.
Yeah, I was about to say we do have a code for Forza Horizon 2.
Yeah.
And it's actually you know what? I'm going to call it a limited edition code, because there's a story behind this, and I can't remember if we've spoken about it on this podcast. This Forza Horizon 2 code is the code that was officially rejected by Hideki Kamiya.
Yep.
The jerk from Platinum.
Jerk.
He was on Twitter asking how he could get a Forza Horizon 2 code now that it's been delisted. I offered him a code. I offered him the code that I have, and he blocked me on Twitter.
What?
So this is the code that Kamiya didn't want. So it's a limited edition code in more ways than one.
Why does he do that? That's so strange to me.
I have no idea. He put the question out in English. Like, apparently he blocks people that talk to him in English, that respond to him in English. Yet he puts his tweets out in English. So I don't understand. Yeah, I don't get it. So weird. He asked the question in English, hey, how do I get Forza Horizon 2? So I replied in English. I don't know Japanese. So I replied in English saying, hey, I've got code if you'd like it. Blocked. So he can cram it.
Yeah, there you go. If you want Kamiya's Forza Horizon 2 code, we'll make sure Ed announces some form of giveaway on Twitter at some point soon.
Yeah,
just for the lols.
You can get Kamiya's code.
But yeah, I do think Sea of Thieves is going to do enormously well on Steam. I think that it is exactly the kind of game you've seen it with Ark, Rust. All of those kind of shared world, anything can happen games, except now you've got a triple A production value, well playing, well thought out pirate simulator, more or less. That is it's just fun with friends, and you'll see a lot of multiplayer, and it's cross-play at launch, which is great because even though I play on PC, I play with a pad because it's that kind of game for me. It's more relaxing. I don't want to sit there like leaning in. So the only time I really encounter trouble is against people that channel their inner shroud and start getting all FPS on me. But when it comes to pure naval combat, we hold our own on pads just fine. It's not an issue. So should be good.
Okay. Next question from Starlatine. Why is Nick so rude? Is it the Australian genes? So
yes,
if we ignore the casual racism there, which I'm very used to as an Australian, I'm not rude. Cairo's rude. I'm not rude.
Yeah.
How am I rude? Hold on a second.
I'm very polite.
How am I rude? Explain.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say rude because there's actually a comment further down from Solidus saying, "Tell Cairo to simmer down. Indoor voice, please." So I won't say you're rude. I'll say you're aggressive. How about that?
There you go.
I can deal with that.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
Good.
So I that was the last question, really.
Jolly good.
So yeah.
And then I guess we'll
Hopefully
do with the
I
last
answered that
bunch.
for you, Star.
Star's always hitting us up with the good ones. I look forward to a Nick-themed question every episode now. And then looking over to Resetera, first question from Vico. Resetera. What do we think happened about Remedy's control on Game Pass? Did Phil Spencer just talk about the wrong game and misspeak, or did the deal fall through, or is it coming once the exclusive DLC stuff period ends with PlayStation 4?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's your answer.
Because look how GTA came to Game Pass the day it
strangely
dropped off right after it dropped off PS Now. It just magically appeared on Game Pass.
Ping.
So yeah, I'd say that there was a deal in place for Control to be on PS Now, and when that's over, it'll be on Game Pass. Phil just said it way too early.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it'll come to Game Pass.
Yeah,
for sure. As will Doom Eternal. Daily reminder that Doom Eternal is going to come to Game Pass.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is kind of tied into the next question and tied into something we spoke about earlier on. So the next question from Mentalist is, since you guys are probably going to talk about the Phil Spencer interview, yes, we did, and he's been quite excited about the studios, including what Global Publishing are up to. He'd be interested in our thoughts about what other potential partnerships they could announce close to the next gen release. One of those, I think, will be Bethesda, because we've seen how invested they've been with Game Pass anyway. We've got the number of their studio teams' games coming on Game Pass 6 months after release. I expect that to continue. And I expect Doom Eternal to pop along at some point once the sales tail off, especially in this environment, probably soon.
I think there might be a Capcom one.
Yeah, I definitely think there'll be a Capcom one.
I don't think people realise how many Capcom games are on Game Pass and have been on Game Pass
consistently.
I mean, if you take away the Street Fighter deal, Capcom's still done a lot with Microsoft this generation. And they've been putting a lot on Game Pass. Like, they clearly see Game Pass as a good vehicle to further engagement with their games. I think I phrased that okay. And same with Square Enix. Square Enix has been putting a lot of stuff on Game Pass. Bethesda's been putting everything on Game Pass. Those three in particular of the major publishers have been putting a lot of stuff on there.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think one is a fundamental reason is that, the very nature of game sales is that, especially with new AAA releases, is that first couple of weeks is huge. It's all front loaded and it just tails off. As soon as you hit that tail, if you want to keep selling your DLC and keep selling those elements, you plonk it onto Game Pass to pick that back up, because you got people that don't want to spend 60 quid but do want to play, and then they might invest in other ways. And
don't forget, these publishers also get
money
up front,
yeah,
almost like it's extra sales.
Yeah.
So once they're no longer getting traditional sales, they'll get that extra cash injection from Microsoft, which is like extra sales, plus all the DLC stuff that they're going to get, presumably, from the people trying it out on Game Pass.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's good.
Yep. Samurai Gosu has asked what our thoughts are on Minecraft Dungeons. I nearly said Microsoft Dungeons then.
You do.
And the lasting appeal it may have, demographics, post DLC assumptions, etc.
Kids are gonna love it. I haven't played it yet, but aesthetic. I mean, it's Minecraft brand.
Yeah.
Like kids are gonna love it.
Yeah, I played it at XO19, and I am not a Minecraft guy, even though I love creating stuff. Like I'm a big Forge fan in Halo, but it looks and plays really well, and it's a really good fun, especially from a multiplayer perspective. And jumping in with 3 friends, hammering through.
And
Diablo
there is single console multiplayer, yeah?
I think there is 4
Surely.
on one console.
Surely.
I would hope so, but I don't know for sure, so I won't say so.
That have to be.
We'll feed back on that one. But yeah, I think it's going to do well. Looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Is it releasing on PlayStation?
Yes.
Yes. Plays PS4, Switch, Xbox, PC.
Cool.
That'll be a big game on Switch. That is going to be such a big game on Switch.
Wow.
Oh, that'll be... I'm willing to go out on a limb here and say that the Switch is going to be the number 1 platform for that game.
Wouldn't surprise me. That is cool, though. That is cool. I love that. Like all of those people get to benefit from a really fun game. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I don't know what they're going to do from a DLC perspective. I would certainly expect stuff. I don't know if they're going to treat it like Minecraft, though, where you had like DLC packs, like skins and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe new areas or new...
Boosters.
Some of it's procedurally generated, right? So
yeah, boosters, maybe.
Yeah. Something of that effect. But that's it. That brings this round of community questions to a close. Outside of that, I'm not sure if there's any other topics that we would necessarily want to cover today. Short and sweet. As short as an hour and 45 minutes can be.
There is one that I wouldn't mind mentioning, and it's not Xbox related.
Go on, shoot. Let's go.
Yeah. The rumour... It's just because I'm excited about the prospect of these games coming out. But there was the rumor of the Mario remakes. Mario 64,
yeah, the big giant Mario
Sunshine, Galaxy. Man, I hope that's true. Like, I would buy those so fast. If they can get Mario 64 in particular and get that looking like Odyssey or close enough to it, oh, God, that'd be good.
Mario 64... if it was remade with that kind of graphic engine, that's going to do very well.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know what it is about gamers. We just like playing the same crap. Like we scream for new IP, but then here's a game remade in new graphic. Just freak.
I was on my Switch last night and I was playing Punch Out and then Super Punch Out, and then I jumped onto the Wii and played Punch Out again.
Good times.
I love that game so much.
Good times.
I hope we get a new Punch Out on Switch.
I guess one last topic perhaps to round it out, and I'll give everyone 3 that they can pick, right? 3 games that you would recommend playing either with friends or as single player games that are perhaps underrated on whatever platform. Doesn't have to be Xbox related, but obviously that's the way we lean to get through this whole isolation quarantine period. What are 3 games, either multiplayer, single player, underrated, that you would think would be good to go with? Ed.
Okay. For multiplayer to socialize, Rocket League. Everyone should be playing Rocket League. That should be an obvious one. And, it's family friendly. So I will, word of warning for families considering Rocket League, the community is pretty toxic. Like, that's a known fact at this point. Like,
just turn chat off at that point.
Yeah, just turn it off. Like, mute, turn chat off, leave it team chat only. Like, Rocket League is a very, very... I'm shocked at how a soccer game has such a vile community. Yeah. In terms of single player, if it's a situation where you're stuck at home, you're not working, you're living alone maybe. Anything single player from Ubisoft, they pad their games out so bad that it's going to take you a long time to fully complete one of their games, whether it's Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, whatever it is, Watch Dogs 2, even Shadow of War. Like, their games are so just bloated and full of stuff, just stuff.
Shadow of War isn't an Ubisoft game, but I get why you said it.
Oh, it's not, is it? Oh, God.
It feels like one, so you're not
I was
mad.
about to say, in my head, I had that attempted lawsuit where they wanted to sue, where Ubisoft wanted to sue them because they Mordor used the same animations as Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
So I had that in my head, and for some reason, but it's effectively like a Ubisoft game, let's be honest. Anything like that. Single player, because it's just they're so full of just crap to do, and they're just so bloated that it'll take you forever to get through them.
Yeah.
What about you, Cairo?
Oh, well, I mean, the first one should be obvious. Everyone with a VR headset should go play Half-Life Alyx right now. Again, I haven't finished the game. I'm only halfway through it, but like I said earlier, fantastic game. You have to see it to believe it. And the people who keep complaining about the game not being on controller or in a traditional sense have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And there is nothing controller could do to replicate the experience of VR for this game.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So true.
Second game I would recommend. I'm playing a lot of Call of Duty, multiplayer, socializing. Yeah. They're about to release quads for, I think that's a leak. I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but I did hear somewhere Warzone is going to have quads, according to the leak, on Tuesday.
Yes.
Seems like.
Why wasn't it there from the start?
God knows.
I don't know. Honestly, it should have five. It should have quads and fives.
Because there's
fives
so many
would be
players.
Great. Because like you have 150 players on the map. Fives wouldn't make sense because now you have an actual like group of friends together, you know?
Yeah.
Because especially people who play a lot, and have a decently sized group of people that get together almost every night to play games, you know? Nowadays, that's even more true. Like, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is the most consistently good Call of Duty that has yet to fully disappoint me in any aspect whatsoever.
Good campaign too. Modern Warfare.
Like I can complain as much as I want about the campers. I can complain as much as I want about how I think the M4 and the MP5 in that game are the sum and total of all the BS I've ever experienced in a Call of Duty game ever, because they're just so broken. And literally only tryhards ever use those guns. I could complain about numerous things, but at the end of the day, you know what I'm doing? I'm sitting down on my Xbox with 3 or 4 of my friends playing more and more Call of Duty. So, and on a consistent, regular basis, I'm done with the season. I'm level 155, max rank in the Battle Pass. I have nothing to do, and I'm still playing that damn game. You know? Great game for just connecting with people and being social and doing something.
When you mention that, it's funny, because now we're going to end up talking for another 45 minutes. we were talking about games getting delayed earlier, and I was reading. I can't remember if we talked about it on Discord or if it was on Reset. Now, yes, there was a poll on Reset, and the poll was between Halo and Black Ops 5, and it was talking about whether we think one of those two games will be delayed into 2021. Now, a lot of people were replying saying, well, how can anyone say that the game that's been announced, Halo Infinite, is the one that's going to be delayed over a game that hasn't been announced?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, because everyone's like, Activision would never delay a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Now, Activision technically haven't announced a Call of Duty.
So it can't be delayed.
And under the current climate, and given how well Modern Warfare is doing,
Yeah.
Given how well Modern Warfare is being supported.
Yeah, especially with the leak saying that 60 maps are coming to the game over the course of the next year. Like,
I believe this is not rumor mill. This is pure 100% unadulterated speculation. I believe there won't be a new Call of Duty this year.
And it'll just be Modern Warfare.
I think they'll continue to support Modern Warfare. They'll continue to update Modern Warfare. They'll rebrand Modern Warfare for the new consoles and almost give them a re-release.
Yep.
So they'll say, here, guys.
This is their platform.
Maybe they'll be jerk-offs and they'll be the first to charge for a Series X and a PS5 update. And that's how they make their money. So what they'll do is they'll beef up the update. So it won't just be an update for better graphics, better performance. Yeah. It'll also be an update that includes content. Yeah. And they'll say, okay,
or
guys,
even PC-specific features like the FOV.
Yeah. So they'll say, okay, we're not getting a new Call of Duty, but for $20, you can get the Series X update, which adds all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they'll just give Treyarch another year to make Black Ops 5 real good and beef it up a lot and make it an unbelievable package for next year.
Yeah.
It's possible.
That's what I think could happen.
Warzone is definitely the platform now. Like, and if they're bringing in all their standard multiplayer in amongst it, and they seem to be having fun with it. They did some funny stuff for April Fools where they had one playlist called "It's Shipment 24/7 Trust Us," and it was actually
it was basically a playlist rotation on Piccadilly.
Yeah, it was Piccadilly, just the constant, just Piccadilly. And then they did have a playlist for Shipment, but it was 10v10.
It was 10v10 Shipment, and the playlist was called Call of Duty Players Only Want One Thing, and frankly, it's disgusting. And it was 10v10 Shipment Kill Confirmed, and it was literally the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
That was horrible.
But it's good that they can have a sense of humour with it like that, and you can do that kind of thing with a live service game and not piss people off. So that's good. It's good stuff.
And don't forget, like each year they usually announce that year's Call of Duty in May. Yeah. But it's always being leaked and teased well before that. And we're in April now, and we really haven't heard anything. About this year's Call of Duty.
To continue what I was saying, since we went off on this giant tangent.
What's your last game?
The last game I'd recommend is Elder Scrolls Online, right? Surprisingly enough. And the reason being is their Greymoor expansion is coming out soon, which is going to be basically adding the rest of Skyrim to the game. And honestly, even if it weren't for that, I'd recommend the game based purely on the fact that just because it's multiplayer, it shouldn't dissuade you from the literal thousands of hours of content that game has built up over the last several years of its existence. Thousands of hours of content. Morrowind, Somerset, Elsewhere, now Skyrim. Like, there is so much stuff in that game. Like, even on top of just the base, like, 80-hour base campaign. Like, single-player stuff in that game is insane. And the fact that you can play that single-player stuff with your friends if you wanted to,
it's a good package.
Mind-blowing. Like, it's super... It's cheap right now on sale. I think the base game is about $5. If you have Game Pass, it's still free. It's still in there. The Elsewhere expansion, I've seen it for like $7 to $9 recently on sale. Morrowind is included with the base game now if you buy it. I don't know about Somerset, but you can probably still find codes for that for cheap. Like, straight up, if you want a crap ton of things to do for the next several months, ESO is just going to keep you busy for a long time.
It's a good one. That's a good one. I'm surprised you didn't say Persona 5 Royale, but it's too late. You can't take it. You can't put it in there now. I guess for me, and I would be pretty positive you guys would be able to guess some of mine. What's the number one multiplayer game that I think people should definitely dive in and play with friends now? Yes. If you haven't played it before, right, or if you played it and it wasn't for you or you got griefed, jump in, get 3 friends that you know well, go in blind, and do the Tall Tales. So don't worry about the grind of the multiplayer aspect of trying to level stuff up. Just play the Tall Tales campaign, the story set pieces, and I guarantee you will have a laugh-filled evening. 100%. Like, go and do it. You will have fun. And Nick, if we need to do a special YouTube series on the XboxEra channel where we drag you in, we will. We can do it. It's happening. My next recommendation would be not VR in the specific way that Cairo said with Half-Life Alyx. If you have the PC available to play that, yeah, you absolutely should give it a go. I, for one, am an absolute wuss, and I'm almost too scared to proceed, but I will try and get some further progress done this weekend.
I would actually like to do speaking of that, before you go on, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I actually would like to do a write-up when I finish that game of just how good it is, honestly.
No harm in that, mate. That's what the site exists for.
Maybe a review.
Yeah, you could do a review of it if you want to.
I wouldn't want to give it a score because I feel like reviews are just kind of more a critique, I guess. Critique would be so no score, just a thoughts.
Yeah,
deep dive thoughts.
From a VR perspective, we're stuck indoors. There are a lot more sitting around, and at least certainly in the UK, we're recommended to only take one form of exercise outside a day. So a lot of people are resorting to exercising inside. So 100% look at things like Beat Saber. Pistol Whip is another really fun, unique, and very, very tiring virtual reality game that you can experience. There's lots of leaderboard.
My brother rang me and told me, he's like, have you heard about Pistol Whip? I'm like, Christopher,
it's VR.
We talked about that game like ages ago on the podcast. So clearly he revealed that he doesn't watch.
Yeah, there you go. Shame on him.
Yeah. He was all excited about Pistol Whip, so
and the great thing about all these fitness games too is that most of them are available on the Quest, so you don't even need a fairly powerful PC to run these games.
Absolutely,
just if you can manage to find yourself an Oculus Quest, it's $400.
I think it was down to $349 for recently. I don't know if it's still the case, but
so if you can find a Quest, go for it. Honestly,
it's the best one.
That is a really good package to have.
Yeah.
Especially since you're going to be if you're doing fitness games, you won't have the wires attached to you.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into its own, especially with stuff like Beat Saber and Pistol Whip, because I found it, and I'm not sure how you felt, but trying to get into Half-Life Alyx, having to be aware of the cable again, all over again, was not fun.
It stinks. It really stinks.
First world problems.
But that's but I mean, once you get over it, then it's like whatever.
Yeah. And my last recommendation is a game that was released probably, and I think the game struggles a little bit on OG Xbox hardware. So I play it on PC, but it is available on Xbox, and I would certainly recommend giving it a go with friends. And that is Wreckfest. If you've not played it or you've not seen much of it, it's Destruction Derby. But with proper racing, and the physics are really, really fantastic. And the key thing is here, and this is a recommendation from our personal friendship group, is do not play it where you've got max out speed like rank A cars, right? Get your cars to a point where you can max out to level C, which is kind of slow, not too slow, but you've got some grunt and power. And get a multiplayer match going with friends, and I guarantee you there'll be lots of laughs if you're racing fans, because there's a lot of destruction and carnage and all sorts in there. So that would be my third recommendation. But above all, in these crazy and unprecedented times, I think the biggest overall message we can give to anyone listening out there is just, much as Cairo said at the beginning here, stay home, stay safe, limit your contact until the storm has passed.
Listen to what the World Health Organization recommends, what your local governmental health body recommends. Just be careful. Don't panic. As long as you follow their advice, you'll be fine.
Just stay home.
Stay home, play games. In fact, that's what I'm going to call this episode.
Work through your backlogs, everybody. You have a lot of games in there, I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.
Especially if you got Game Pass. Jesus.
Exactly.
Doing gangbusters, but we will be back as per usual in a couple of weeks' times, and who knows, within a couple of weeks, maybe we'll be talking about Lockhart. But for now, we shall bid you all adieu. Peace out, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Ciao for now.
See you later.